Qualifier from the United States of renown, Wayne Odesnik. He makes his way to the net court for the coin toss. Well, welcome once again, everyone. Kevin Skinner alongside Doug Adler. Proud to bring in my partner for the remainder of this tournament here on the clay courts of Acapulco for the last year. It's a great opportunity for David Ferrer to win perhaps his 4th consecutive title here. That would tie him with Thomas Muster for the most. He looks sharp already in 2013.
Yeah, what I remember about last year, Kevin, was how much in the early rounds Ferrer really struggled with his serve. And I know that prior to his matches, prior to his victories and following, he went out and worked on his serve a lot, serving a lot better to start this tournament.
David Ferrer is the top-ranked Spaniard amongst the myriad of them in the ATP rankings. For the Emirates ATP rankings, you find David Ferrer at number 4 in the world, but he's the top seed here in Acapulco. Looking at the draw, doing a good job getting through his opening match with relative ease. Love and 3, taking on Odesnik, who had a nice win versus Kubat. This is obviously the top half of the draw. Ferrer enjoys that position as he had for each of the last 2 years. And hoping to hold on to the title one more time, get that big silver pear-looking trophy, take it home with the sombrero on his head. Now dressed in his very vibrant kit, the 30-year-old from Spain has been a professional for 13 years now. But in the last year, 2012, 2013, he has really flourished. It's been the best stretch of his career. He picked up titles 19 and 20 earlier this year. Currently at his career high, number 4. He really is finding a rich vein.
Absolutely. At the age of 30, he's playing his best tennis, and we're seeing a lot of that from a lot of guys now in their early 30s. Is that we call it the 30 and over group? Roger Federer's in that group, and it's amazing how they're starting to find their way a little bit later on now. They're peaking a little bit later. That's almost like the old days of tennis. And for Ferrer last year, what an amazing year he had. Got to the quarterfinals of 2 of the Grand Slams and the semis of 2 more. So he's at least in the quarters of all 4 slams. And you used to think of him as a guy who's primarily good on clay. Well, I don't think you can say that anymore.
No, and he led the tour with 7 titles last year in 2012. Now he has gotten to, well, another appearance in Acapulco where his first 3 trips he was 3-3 leaving. Yeah. And then he has just turned on the afterburners and really produced well. He's won 16 straight matches here.
And when you talk about the fact he won 7 events last year, he was in the finals of 8 events, and he only lost in the finals 1 time, which shows he's a phenomenal match player.
Which was no match for the man who is so powerful on this courts, specifically right here on the stadium. And so Ferrer cruises through easily, just dropping a total of 3 games. Yeah, it was a remarkable year in 2012. We'll talk more about it for David Ferrer and what he was able to accomplish, including winning his first ever Masters 1000 event. Now, for Wayne Odesnik, the 27-year-old who plays from the left side, he's got a big forehand and he's very quick around the court. He was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, but at the age of 2 moved to the United States and now settles in Western Florida. He's about 45 minutes northwest of Miami. He's currently at 155th in the world. He is a top 100 player in the past, but he ran into some trouble back in 2010. Faced a 2-year suspension due to human growth hormone that he had in his bag on his way to Australia. He ended up only serving a year. We'll tell you more about that, but you see him trying to climb back up the Emirates ATP rankings. And he has a wealth of talent. It's just a matter of getting enough match play and really being able to put up any sort of opposition.
Yeah, well, he's had to fall back and play challengers. He's had to really do well on that circuit, which is the minor leagues compared to what he's going to be faced with tonight. But you got to give him a lot of credit. He is the lone American to show up and play singles here. That's, you know, we're here in Acapulco. You just wonder, where are the Americans? We know they aren't really playing singles, and you can see that win over Kubat. That's a solid victory. Kubat is one tough player. Kubat said he really struggled with Odesnik in terms of Odesnik just not missing or breaking down.
Yeah, some of the Americans that you're talking about that haven't traveled to Acapulco are playing in the 250 event in Delray Beach, but really it is Wayne coming down, having to qualify. He got through qualifications in beating Matheson Klein of Australia 6-3, 6-1, then took on another of the many Spaniards, Javier Martí, dropped the opening set 6-2. Tight second set 7-5 and needed a 3rd set tiebreak just to make the main draw before the match with Kubat. No history between the two, so they will be fresh and obviously early, trying to get a sense of each other's rhythm. Opening set should be intriguing in that regard, except for the fact that you really have to believe that David Ferrer has maybe more confidence playing on this court than perhaps anywhere else in the world.
Well, when you've won 3 consecutive years, you're going for a four-peat. How can you not make that comment? I was watching him practice earlier today. They were working on that serve. Javier Pilas and David going out and remembering what had happened last year, early rounds, struggling. Doesn't seem to be a problem. I'll tell you what, he was hitting the corners, Kevin, both deuce and ad side with regularity. He's a much more confident player right now compared to this time last year because of everything that took place in his game last year.
Ferrer has been absolutely staggeringly consistent through the course of 2013 already. This is now his 5th event of the year. He has reached the semifinals or better in all 4 previous events, starting off as a semifinalist in Doha, won Auckland for the 3rd straight year, 4 times overall, got to the semifinals at the Australian Open and had a poor showing against eventual champion Novak Djokovic. That was a bit dismaying in Ferrer's book, but he bounced back impressively, going to Buenos Aires and winning the title back-to-back years.
And he's struggled, let's face it, against the top 3 guys, against Djokovic, against Murray, against Federer, and then against Nadal. Those have been about the only 4 guys that have had the answer to the David Ferrer puzzle. Those are the only 4, and psychologically, he just doesn't go out on the court against those guys the same way as he does against everyone else.
For Wayne Odesnik in 2013, he was unable to get out of the opening round of qualifications for the Australian Open, suffered defeat. He also was not able to qualify for Buenos Aires as he lost in the first round there. But he did have a decent showing at Bucaramanga in Colombia. Last year at that Challenger event, he won. He got back to the final again this year and came up short against Federico Del Bonis. But for Odesnik, a little something to build on. The Challenger obviously giving him a bit of confidence to really help him qualify for Acapulco.
Qualify and then come through and have a good opening round victory over someone who's a good top-ranking player. Lucas Kubat, a top 70 player in the world, has been as high as top 50. And once again, I just say that for Wayne Odesnik, I just applaud his efforts as an American coming here, being able to do really well. The only other American who's here is Scott Lipsky, and he's playing doubles.
It'll be very important for Odesnik to have even any hope of being competitive, let alone winning this match, to get off to a good start and find his way to some success early. But that is a big ask against David Ferrer, who is so formidable here in Acapulco. So our coverage of the Abierto Mexicano, the Mexican Open, begins on this day. The 2nd round action featuring the top seed, David Ferrer of Spain, taking on the qualifier from the United States, Wayne Odesnik. Cancha Central is ready. The players are warm, and no surprise, David Ferrer is ready to go himself. He took maybe 3 seconds at the chair, gathered himself and said, I'm ready to get this thing started. He will serve first to begin this 2nd round meeting. First between these two, Ferrer trying to pick up his 17th straight match win here at the Abierto Mexicano.
And that's going to be the game plan. Odesnik weaker on the backhand side. Ferrer practicing last couple days, trying to get the lefty to go real wide in the deuce court. Won't be surprised to see him serve a lot of balls down the tee in this ad court.
Yeah, really trying to break down the backhand. That is no secret. Anybody who's seen Odesnik play and knows anything about him knows the forehand, he can move it around well. He can dictate play himself. He's pretty strong. Backhand is just a liability.
And that's what pretty much the deal is with most lefties. I mean, regardless of what era it is, it seems to always be the weaker side. Although I do have to say the John McEnroe era, his single-handed backhand I thought was phenomenal. People will say that his forehand was amazing, but I think the backhand was a better shot. Can't say that about too many lefties.
Obviously the exception to the rule in that regard. There were a lot of things that McEnroe was an exception to.
And we're still talking about him, what, 30 years later?
Well, he was also exceptional. Backhand just betraying Odesnik right out of the gates. 4 errors, opening game to Ferrer.
Well, Ferrer also, as if he needed another advantage, his coach is a lefty. So Javier Pilas when they practice, and that's who he practices with, he's out there showing them what it's like against the lefty. And in terms of serving, they get to practice all the same spots. So that's another advantage going to the #1 seed. It's funny to say the #1 seed when Nadal's the #2 seed.
It really
and
is.
Nadal owns Ferrer.
You look at the draw and you're like, wait a minute, why is that name all the way down at the bottom? No? 7 months off has done that, and Ferrer taking advantage of the opportunity and making the most of his opportunities, and they have switched places for the moment. Ferrer, the top-ranked Spaniard. Now Odesnik's chance to begin.
But Ferrer is just such a bull. Look at him just pound Odesnik's backhand. Even when he loses a point, he's going every single ball to that wing. That's such discipline. And you know what? When you're Ferrer, when you're 5'9", when you're that smart on the court, you rarely see him do anything that I would say is wrong.
Iguales, 15 all.
Well, the book on Odesnik is when he's in peak form, he really does move well. He's a great retriever. He's going to have to get used to that today because he is going to be on the run. Ferrer is obviously making a statement. Backhand is the target, but there's a lot of court to work with, and Odesnik is going to be scrambling.
Segundo servicio.
Yeah, that second serve's like cream pie.